Welcome everybody. This is Mr. Ndabezita. I just wanted to look at some things. I think we should now try to wrap up things, and then we will look at writing to and reading from a sequential access text file. And then I have created a class here with us, which is the employee, and I have only 3 properties, and they are public with a get and a set. Okay, I will just come to the main here. And what is it that we want to achieve here? Now, we want to store the employee data to a persistent storage device, which is just saving the information inside of a text file. Very important. So in order to do that, in order to achieve that, in order for us to be able to write information inside of a file, writing to a file, we need to declare what we call a file stream object. This is the most important thing that we just need to keep in our minds. The very first thing that we need to do is to create a file stream. Now the object of the file stream, so we have to declare a file stream object. Very important. And this is exactly what we will do. We will do exactly that. Right, so but before we can do that, I think it is very important that we declare some variables that might give us an insight as to how we can achieve that. So the first important thing that we need to do, I think we should just have a constant. Okay, let me just have a constant, and I'm going to call this, it will be of type int, and I will call this an end. This is just an end. It's just a constant int variable, and remember, if it is a constant, you have to immediately assign it a value. Very important. So what will the end do? This is very important that we will understand what is happening here. So we will go through many of the things. So this is the end that will end the program for us. Whenever a user enters that number, that's when we will exit the loop, and then we will close in the writer, and we will close in the stream object. All right, so we have this end, which is a constant, and it is of type int. Now remember, if it is a constant, that value cannot change. I think it is very also important that we declare a second constant, but this one will be of type string, and we will call this the delim, which is the abbreviated form or version of the delimiter. So the delimiter acts as a character that separates the text inside of your file. For example, maybe we have the employee name, and we have the employee number and salary. We are going to separate these different text inside of this text file using a delimiter. It is very important. So we are therefore saying when you write data to a file, you can separate the fields. Very important. The delimiter will be able to separate the fields, which is what now the number, the name, and the salary of the employee. So when we write data to a file, we separate the fields with a comma, which in this case we just give it the name of a delim, which is a delimiter. Very important. Right. And then what else are we going to do here? Now let's just have a constant stream, but I'm not going to have a constant stream. I think I will add that whenever I create the object of the file stream. And then one most important thing that I'm going to do here, after I have had these two variables, let me just create an object of the employee. Okay, sorry, equals new. employee object. And then when I have created this employee object, the very first thing that I want to do, because I want to write to this file, the most important thing is to create an object. We create an object because what we want to do, we want to store the employee data in a persistent storage device. So we have to declare a what now? A file stream object. So how do we declare a file stream object? You say file stream, file stream, which is a reserved C# class, right? And then we have this file stream and it is a class, right? And then we have to give this file stream an object of this class, which we will just call that the out file. Let me just call that the out file, and this is equals to new file stream. And immediately when you make those brackets, there is some information that is very important that is presented before us. Right, file stream Microsoft.Windows32.save handles. And then what does this really do? Right, and then it is very important that inside of this, it says it initializes a new instance of the file stream class for the specified file handle with the specified read and write permissions. And then it says handle, a file handle for the file that the current file stream object will encapsulate. So first of all, it accepts the name of the file. You pass in the name of the file as a string. If that file does not exist that you want to write to, it will create that file for you. If that file already exists, it will override that file. Very important. Now let me come here and I want to go to the root folder of this class. We have a problem here. We have a problem here. Okay, let me just save this. Let me go to the desktop, C# tutorial, and let's go to console application 1. This is the name of the folder that we are currently in. Okay, let's go here, let's go to the bin, let's go here, and then I want us to delete this. Let's just delete that file. And then when we have done that, I'm more than happy. Right, that's fine. So the very first thing, we are going to create a file. If that file is already it already exists, it will override that file. So let's create a file and call this the employee.txt. Now why do you have that dot? That dot tells you that the file that you are creating is going to be a text file. A text file. Very important. And then we have a comma. You see, very important, file stream, file path, file mode. And then we will have the file mode. And then you say dot. So what is it that we want to do? We want to create that. Let's just use create and then comma, and then we have the what now. So the very first thing that we have the file stream, we have file mode dot create, and then lastly, what is it that we have now? We need to have the file access. Now the file access dot what? Now we want to write from that file. We want to write to that file. So very important, the file stream object, the constructor of the file stream, because this is a class, remember, a class, and the object You are reserving memory for that class. The constructor that initializes the file stream accepts three things. It accepts the name of the file. If that file is not there, it will create that file for you. Secondly, the file mode dot, we are creating that file, and the file access dot write, we want to write to that file, or we want to write inside of that file. Very important, the three parameters that it has to accept. And what is this? This looks like a something like, okay, specifies, okay, no, that is fine. We are not going to bother ourselves with that. But when you look at the create, it looks something like a, let's come here, let me show you something. Suppose we have an int, and then I say free. In fact, let me make this public. Let me say public okay, let me not do it here. Let me come on top. Let me say public. Jesus. Okay, let me just have a string, and then I say, let me just call this seconds, and then when I say here, okay, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay, let me just leave it. Let me just leave it. Okay, it's fine. So this is the information that we have. Right. If this is the information that we have just created a file stream, and we have initialized the constructor with all those values. Now, immediately when you create a file stream, secondly, you need to have a stream writer, because we are going to write to that file. So you must have a stream writer. So you will say stream writer, and then this stream writer is also a class. It is a subclass of the file stream. And this stream writer that we have, we will call this the writer equals new stream writer. And then the stream writer now initializes a new instance of the stream writer class for the specified stream. So it initializes a new instance of the stream writer. So in other words, it initializes an object of the what now? Of the file stream. You need to send in there the object of the file stream. So what will it do now? It will initialize what now? The object of the file stream. Very important. And then you are done. So these things are very important. The file stream, it's the parent, and the stream writer is the subclass of the file stream. But it is also a class, but it initializes the instance of the file stream. That's the job of the stream writer. The stream writer is a class, so we are creating an object of that, reserving memory, and then the constructor of the stream writer initializes what now? It initializes the object of the file stream. Very, very important. So here you must have the object of the file stream, and then it will be happy. Just one argument. It accepts an object. The stream writer accepts an object that comes from the file stream. All right, we are fine with that. And then once that has been done, now I am ready to work now. The first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to prompt. I'm going to have a write statement. And in this write statement, I'm just going to say enter the employee number or press 999 to quit. So I'm going to say enter employee number or press this to quit, comma, and I'm going to send in the end there. So I'm saying to you, all right, enter the employee number or press 000 to quit. Very, very important. So I'm just using placeholders there. Nothing new with this. All right, no, that's fine. We are happy with that. So the individual is going to enter the employee number. Right, when this individual enters an employee number, I should be able to store that employee number. Right, it is a number. I need to read, convert, and store that. Now, because I already have an object of the employee class, via the employee class, let me just access that employee number and store the value inside there. So this is equals, because I know that it's an int, so to int 32, and then I'll have the read line, sorry, and then I'll just have the read line. Very important. Okay, let me just close this bracket. Let me just close that bracket. Very good. Oh, sorry. Very good. So we are fine now. So what am I saying there? Via the object of the employee class, I am storing whatever the individual will enter there inside of a property called employee number. So when you go to the employee class, inside of that property, that's where I will read, convert, and store that employee number. Hence, I created that object of the employee so that I don't have to declare a variable that will be able to store that number. This is very, very important. Please, it is the fundamental building block of your second year software engineering. Very important. Right, I have this employee number now. And once I have this employee number, I want to use a while loop. I want to say while the employee dot number, while that employee number is not equals to 0. What is it that you want to do? Oh, sorry, not 0. While the employee number is not equals to the end now. As long as that number you are entering as the employee number is not equals to 999, there's something that I want to do. This is very, very important that we follow slowly and slowly so that we understand exactly what is happening. Now, let us continue with this. So when I say employee.employee number is not equals to 0, what is it that I'm doing there? I am simply saying this, take this as a sentinel value. It's a sentinel value. It's a value immediately when you enter that value, we will exit the while loop. So it is a sentinel value. It is a value that when you enter that value, we terminate the program. So we call that in software engineering a sentinel value of what now? Of 999 for an employee ID number. Very important. So what is happening there? The data entry loop will end and the file is closed immediately when you enter that value. All right, let us continue. Now, inside of the while loop, I have prompted for employee number I have read, converted, and stored that inside the employee number property. Now I'm saying while the employee number is not equals to a sentinel value of 999, what is it that I want to do? I want to prompt again, because there are two things left. I need to ask for the last name. So I'm going to say enter last name. And that name comes as a string. And I need to store that. Let me do the very same thing here, just to have some space. So I know this individual is going to enter the name, and I know that by default C# is a string. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say the employee dot name, employee name, it's equals to readline. I don't have to convert that because it is plain text, and by default C# is a string. Okay, that it's fine. And then I have this employee name, and then I'm storing that inside of a property. Right, what else is left now? I need to prompt for the salary now. Let me have a write statement and just say enter employee salary. And I know that is a double. So the employee dot salary is equals to double. And then I'm going to read that, convert, and store. Now I'm fine. So I am only allowing whoever is interacting with the problem to execute the while loop as long as the employee number is not equals to that. Alright, that is fine. And then we can continue in this. And then now that I have this information, I have the employee name, number, and salary. How will I write this information inside of a file that I have created, which is called employee? How do I write this information inside of that file? This is one most important thing. Now, in order to do that now, you have a stream writer. And via the object of the stream writer, you will be able to use the object of the stream writer, not the object of the file stream. We use the object of the stream writer in order to write to that file. And then how do we do that? You come here via the object of the stream writer, which is writer. You say writer dot, and there's a what now? There is something very important inside there. There's a method that we call the write line. And this method allows you to do what now? Allows you to write to the file. So what we are going to do there, we are going to say, okay, write for me the employee dot employee number, very important, plus, and then I'm going to separate these fields using the delimiter here. So plus delim plus, and then I'm going to say employee dot name plus the delim plus employee dot salary dot to string, and then with some currency symbol for me. Very important. So what is going to happen there? The writer dot write line, let's just check here. The writer dot write line will write that one line for you inside of the employee text file. When you open the employee text file, you will find employee number separated by a comma. You will find employee name separated by a comma. You will find your salary with a currency symbol attached to that. Because you prompted for what? You prompted for an employee number. You prompted for the last name and the salary, and you are writing this one line inside of the employee.txt via the stream writer object using a method called writer.writeLine. Very important. And then in this method have accepted that one line. It will write that one line inside there. Hi, Jesus. Okay, that is fine. All right, that is fine. So once I have done that via the writer, I want to keep on asking for all this while the employee number is not equals to the end. So I'm going to copy this one line and I'm going to paste it here. So it will keep on doing that. You see, so once it has done this, it will prompt again, and then it will go and check whether the employee number is not equals to the sentinel value, and then it will keep on asking you to enter the employee number, last name and salary until you enter that value. So this is exactly what we want to do. And then when we go out of the while loop, when we are outside this loop, I want to close the writer object that writes, that allows you to write to that file. And I also want to close the out file. I want to close the out file. So what am I closing here? I'm closing the writer object because it is the one that writes information on a line. So okay, sorry, let me just say dot close here. Very good. Sorry, let me just say dot close here. So I'm closing the writer and I'm also closing the stream, the file stream. I'm closing the file. Close the writer first and then close the file. Okay, let me just not disturb you. This is end main. This is end class, and this is end namespace. All right. So let us try to run this and see if things will happen the way in which we have predicted. Let us just try. So I want us to accept 5 numbers. I want us to accept 5 individuals and 5 salaries. And then we will exit this. And then we will move on to something else. So enter the employee number or press 999 to quit. So I'm going to enter the employee number. Enter last name. Okay, Samuel 34 and so on. Right. Enter employee number. I'm going to enter this. Last name Zanele. Salary, that value. Enter employee number here. Last name Segese. Salary, that value. Enter employee number this. Last name Makosi. Amount that. So how many have I entered now? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's have the last one. This one. Name. Atlehang salary, that value. Now I press 999, sorry, and then we exit that because that's a sentinel value. All right, let's go to this file. It has created an employee for us and it has populated that with this information. All right, we are done with this. We are so much done with this. Now let me go here. Let me add new item, and this new item that I have, I am just going to call this we wrote to a file. This time we are going to read from that file, from this current file that we have written to. So let me just call this read sequential file. So let me just say read sequential file. Right, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the namespaces so that I can have my own main in here. So let me just call this read sequential underscore file. So this will be my class. So let me just come here and say end class and end namespace. So I'm going to create my own static void main string of array arguments. So this is my main and main. Right, when I am in here, now we want to read from the very file that we have created in here. We want to read from this file. We want to read this information. All right. Now here we are. And when we are here, the most important thing that we will do inside of this file, the very first thing, we will declare some few things. Now it is very important that we understand the following. Right. A program that reads from a sequential access data file contains many similar components to the one that writes to a file. We will investigate that. Right. And then they say, for example, a file stream object is created as okay, that's fine. However, the access must be the file access.read or read write as in the following whatever statement. Okay, that is fine. Then as when the data is written, the file stream object is passed to a stream reader object constructor as okay, that is fine. And they say after the stream writer has been defined, a readline method can be used to retrieve one line at a time from the data file. Very important. Very important. After the stream reader has been defined, the readline method can be used to retrieve one line at a time from the data file. Very important. Right. If the value of the record in is null, the value of the object where you have saved, if that value is null, then no more data exists in that file. Therefore, a loop that begins while loop can be used to control the data entry loop. After a record a line of data is read in. The split method can be used to separate the data fields into an array of strings. Very, very important. The split method is a member of the string class. It takes a character parameter and separates a string into substrings at each occurrence of the character delimiter. Right, let us try to investigate this. Now, what I'm going to do in the main, first of all, I am still going to declare a constant. This will be a char, and this char we will call this the delim, and this will be equals to a comma. Whereas in this one we had a string. That was a string. But in here, this delimiter is a char and it's just a comma. Very, very important that we note that. Very, very important. Right. In this class, when we were here, the delimiter here was defined to be a string instead of a char. Why? To force the composed argument to right line to be a string. Very important. The delimiter is defined to be a string here instead of a char. Why? To force the composed arguments to right line to be a string. So this is exactly why it was a string here. So here we declare a delimiter as a string for the reason that the delimiter is a string instead of a char. Why? In order to force the composed arguments to right line to be a string. Very important. So we were forcing this to be a string. We were forcing this one line here to be a string. Hence we used what now? We declared a delimiter as a string here, not a char. Why? Because we were forcing the right line, the entire, this one line that will be written inside of the employee file to be a string. We were forcing this line to be a string. Very, very important. But in here, we could have also declared the delimiter here as a char. We could have done the same thing in here. We could have done that. If the first data field sent to the right line was a string, then the delim could have been declared as a char. Very important. Now listen to what they are saying here. If the first data field sent to the right line was a string, then the delim could have been declared as a char. So we are therefore saying in here, if the first data field sent to the right line was a string. Now, the first data field that we are sending to the right line, is this a string? No, it's an int. So if the first data field that we were sending was a string, then we could have declared the delimiter here as a char. But because the first field, in fact, the first field, very important, the first data field that we are sending to the right line, it's not a string but a number, therefore we declare the delimiter as a string. But if the first data field that we were sending there was a string, then we could have declared the delimiter as a char. This is just exactly what they are saying to us, right? Then the delimiter could have been declared as a char. Okay, that is fine. And then what is it that we are trying to do here? Remember, we are here. It's so important that we understand some of these things here. Right, I have that. And then once I have that, I am going to, this time I'm not going to manually input that. I'm going to declare a constant string, which I will just call the file name, and this will be equals to, and what is the name of the file? I'm going to copy this. If that file is not there, remember it will create that file for you. So that is what I'm going to send there. Right, so this is just a constant string file name. I know that it will never change. So these are the variables that I have. And then secondly, what I'm going to do, I have to create an employee object. So I'm going to copy this line and I'm going to paste that in here. And then once I have done that, I'm going to create a file stream. Now in here, I said it was an out file, but I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it here so that you can see the differences. First of all, I'm not going to say this is an out file. I'm going to say this is an in file. Right, now remember we are trying to read from the file. We are not writing to a file. This time we are reading from that file. We are reading the information that is contained inside of what now? Inside of this file. We are reading this information. We wrote this information. Now we are reading this information. Right. So I'm going to call the object of the file stream the in file, and then the constructors. This time I'm not going to manually input this because I have already a name reserved for that, which is the file name. So that is what I'm going to pass in there. And then secondly, what is it that I'm going to do there? Secondly, the file mode. You are not going to say create, you are opening that file. File mode dot open. Right. And then the file access, we are no longer writing to that file, but we are reading to that file. So we can say read write, or we can just say read. So let's just use the read. So we are reading the information inside of that file. So please be very careful. It is very important that we separate what is happening between the write and the read. Very important. And then once we did that, we have to go and find a stream reader, not a stream writer. So I'm going to copy this line because I want to show you some comparisons here. So I'm going to come here and paste that. But we don't want a stream writer. We are looking for a stream reader. Very important. And we are going to call that reader. And it also accepts the object of the file stream, which we call the in file. This is the stream reader, and the stream reader must accept that in file. Okay, there's a problem here. It's not a stream writer, it's a stream reader. Okay, let me just say new stream reader. Very important. So the constructor of the stream reader also accepts an object of the file stream. So there's a similarity in terms of how these two things works when we look at the side. So I have explained what is happening here. So there's some similarities there. You just have to modify a few things. Now remember, once we have the stream reader, now I'm going to declare a variable which will be of type string, and I want to read the records that are inside there. So I'm going to declare this variable as the records in, and for now it has nothing. And then I'm going to declare a string of arrays, and I'm going to call that fields. Right, and there's nothing inside there. And then the first thing that I will do, I will have a write line. Oh, let me just go and import. So let me just import these things. Let me just copy this, and let me just paste that. Right, so I'll just have a write line, and in this write line, the very first thing that I want to do is to just have the headings, and I want to have them in this format as columns. I want my data to be displayed as columns and rows. So I will have 1, 2, 3 for the name, the number, and the salary. I will have 0, I will have 1 and 2. So I want to separate them. Let me use a -5. Let me use a -12, and let me use an 8. And if my data is not aligned the way I want, I'll just come and modify there. So at position 0, I want to have this, comma, and that. So the very first one will be the employee number. So let me just say number, and then here I will have names, and then here I will have the salary. Very, very important. So this is the first write line that I will have. But let me just create some new lines there. Very important. Right, once that is done, what is it that I want to do now? I want to store something inside of the record in, and it's a string. Record in, it's equals to what now? It will be equals to the reader, and then dot read line. So I know that the reader dot read line will just read one line for me, and it will store that inside of the records in. Very, very important. Now once that is done, what is it that I want to do now? I want to go to a while loop now, because we have read about this. This is very, very important. Right, we have said when we read into that, what is it that we said? We said now, if the value of the records in is null, then no more data exists in the file. So immediately when it is null, it will exit the while loop, showing that it has read everything that is inside of that file. So it is null, and then it will exit. Right, after a record, a line of data is read. Okay, that is fine. So we are going to read, it will read one line of data. It will keep on doing that, and so on. If the value of the record in is null, then no more data exists in the file. Therefore, a loop that begins, okay, let's just go and look at this loop. So I'm going to say while the record in is not equals to none. So what is this now? Now what is this now? Please check very carefully. Because the record in reads one line of data. Let me show you something. So this is one line of data. And what is this? This is an object because it contains the number, the name, and the salary. From where? From the employee class, and I've created an object of that. So remember, those records comes as strings. They come as strings. Right, I'm sorry, I was just disturbed. Okay, let's continue in this. So this will do what now? It will, remember, the record is equals to reader.readline. So it will read the record, okay, and then it will store them inside of the record in, okay. And then when it is null, it simply means that it has read all the records, and then we will continue. So the first thing, then, when I enter inside of this while loop, I have an array of strings where I will store all the records one after the other. So what I'm going to do there, I'm going to say fields is equals to the record in dot split, and then the split will accept one parameter of type string, which is the delimiter. All right, and then what am I saying there? Right, we are therefore saying after the record, the line of data is read in, okay. After that has been read in, the split method can be used to separate the data fields into an array of strings. Very important. So the split separates the data fields into an array of strings and store that inside of an array. Very important. That's why we have this split method. The split method is therefore responsible for doing what? Separating the data fields. It will separate the number and the names and the salary, and then you are sending in a string parameter, which is the delimiter. So the split will split your data using what now? This comma that we have. Very important. And then once that has been done, what is it that we want to do? Now I want to take the employee. Okay, let me just go. I want to take the employee dot number, and I want to take this number and convert it to an int, because I know it's an int 32. But I'm not going to read this. I'm not going to read that. What is it that I'm going to do here? I'm going to say fields at position 0. So at position 0, I have the employee number. Very, very important. So at position 0, I have that. So I'm going to copy this and paste. So at position 0, inside of my array, I will have my employee number. I will come here and have the employee name at position 1. And I know the employee name is just a string. I don't have to convert that. By default, C# is a string, and then I will come here to double, and then this will be at position 2. Very, very important, but it is not employee number, it is the salary of this particular employee. So this is all the information that I will have. So these are just numbers. So I'm trying to do what now? Before I can have a write line, I am saying employee.employee number, it's equals to an int, so it will be at position 0. Very important, it will be at position 1 and you will be at position 2. And then now, how do I make them to fit into this table of rows and columns? Now I can have a write line. I can have a write line, and in this write line that I have, one thing that I can do there, I can just say, okay, in fact, I don't even have to have a write line there. I can just copy this, and paste it there. And then I can just get rid of this and just get rid of that. Now, instead of having strings there, I will copy this and paste it here. I will copy this, paste it here, and lastly I will copy this, I will copy that and just paste that. So I am saying exactly this, so that after this write line I will have the employee number, I will have the employee name, and I will have the salary. Very, very important. This is exactly what I'm doing. And then once that is done, I can just come here and say record in equals to the what now? The reader dot read line. So it will read one line of code again and store that inside of the reader, and then it will come here again for the second line. It will check if it is not equals to null. It will do this, store that, come until it has read all the records, and then it will close. So when I exit the while loop, the first thing I will close the reader, just as I closed the writer, and I will close the in file just as I closed the out file. Right, this is very, very important. Very, very important. Now I am in this main. Now let me just run this. Let's just run this and check if things will work fine, because the namespaces are different. Let's see if it will run this. No. And it says program has more than one entry point. Okay, but let's check the namespaces. The namespaces are not the same, but irrespective of that, this becomes a problem. So let's just delete this. We no longer need that. Right, we no longer need that. Okay, That's fine. Let's just run this once again and see if things will work just fine. Right, there was a problem. Okay, it says unhandled exception, system.format exception, input string was not in the correct format. Okay, that it's fine. And then we come here, users fanzo and so on, read sequential file.cs line 28, which is this one, and there's a problem at line 28. And why should we have a problem at line 28? Let me just open this. Okay, the information is still there. Okay, if line 28 is a problem, let's just comment that line and let's just rerun our code. And when we rerun our code, everything is fine, but the salaries are all 0 because we have commented that line, because that line seems to be a problem. Okay, how do we fix that problem? Employee salary equals to double fields at position 2. Right, why are we having a problem there? Let me go to the employee. Okay, let me just cut this and let me just paste that here. All right, let's come back here. Let me just do this and let me run the code once again. And we are still having that problem. And the same line is a line of problem. Unhandled exception. Input string was not in a correct format. Okay. System.number. Okay, that's fine. System.convert to double string value. Okay, string value. Okay, let's just run it for the last time. And it says string value, and it's line 28. So we are storing this inside of a string array called fields. Okay, all right, there is no problem with that. And okay, it has read all the values, but it seems like when it tries to read employee salary, there's a problem with that. Okay, let me try to use the var there. Okay, I'll have to use a string. Okay, if I say this is a string, oh, and we call that fields, and I have said that fields is equals to the records.split via the delim. Okay, that is fine. This is the very first thing that I did when I entered inside of that loop, the while loop, and then I have my employee number. There's no problem with that, but I don't know why we are having the problem with the salary, because we shouldn't have such a problem with that. We shouldn't have a problem with that. We shouldn't have a problem with that, because we have auto implemented the convert. So why are we having a problem with that? Okay, let's comment this. I want to check something again. Let's just run this. So we have everything fine. We have this at position 0, we have this at position 1, and we have this at position 2. So we just separated them by these values, -5, -12, and 8. That's all that. So we are just saying, okay, just have those values in tables of rows and columns. But the employee salary seems to be a problem. It seems to be a problem. Okay, when we are here, if I don't convert this, I want to show you, we are going to have a problem, you see, because it said here fields is not null here, cannot implicitly convert type string to double, you see. So I have to say to double. I must say that because the salary must be converted to a double because it was declared as a double there. Alright. I truly don't know why it is doing that. I truly do not know why it is doing that. And I think one thing that is most important is just to say dot to string. I think that's all what we have to do. Guys, I think in the next tutorial we will just try to work on that. I think we will just try to work on that because we still have to continue and look at things like searching a sequential file for data and see whether we can get that data from the file. We need to look at the seek method, the seek origin dot begin, and all that. So I think we should break it here. We'll try to sit down and check what really the problem is.